All right, we are back right here on Farz Cast. As promised in the previous segment, joining me on this episode, going to be a lot of MMA talk, also some NFL talk and whatnot, whatever we talk about here and there. Dan Doherty and Eddie Law. Dan is the host of the Throwing Elbows MMA podcast, also a host at ESPN Radio in Ithaca, and Eddie Law joining me. He is the host of the Keyboard Warriors MMA podcast, and both of them write for CageSidePress.com. Dan is actually an editor for CageSidePress.com, and they're joining me now on Farzcast. Gentlemen, what's going on?
Good,
Good Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, for you, all right, I'm coming off a loss. All right, I'm coming off a loss right now.
With your Cardinals.
Murray, dude, come on. It's Sunday. I was trying to grill. I had my kid with me, dude. Watching his third. He was 2-0. I was trying to hope he was going to be 3-0. Lifetime for him. Now he's 2-1 lifetime. I don't even want to say my record lifetime with the Cardinals. It's terrible. It's just terrible. Okay, but it's okay. As a Cardinals fan, as an Arizona sports fan, we know this is how it goes.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we started recording. I thought the Cardinals were going to be better than a lot of people gave them credit for. Like, as soon as they got DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion, Larry Fitzgerald has been the best receiver for a long time, and I think more recently, Hopkins. I know a lot of people say Michael Thomas or Tyreek Hill, but man, DeAndre Hopkins hardly ever drops the football. And for them to be on the same team with a really young quarterback, a very versatile quarterback, I think this Cardinals team is going to go really far this year. I really do.
I'm really hoping, man. A lot of it has to do with experience, man. Kyler has a year under his belt. It's a second-year quarterback. So you're kind of hoping that, something connects there. We're not expecting the Super Bowl, right? And we weren't expecting this to be this good like now. But we're expecting a run for the playoffs, at least a run to the playoffs, like for the playoffs, right? But again, Arizona fans, you guys all know how I am, how we all are. We all understand. If we're expecting greatness and the hype is there, we're definitely going to underdeliver, right? So that's why everyone here goes like, yeah, we might be good. Who knows? In the back of your head, you're like, we're going to be solid. But, when you talk to anybody, you're like, oh, we might be good. We don't know. Hop might not, connect with Murray. You never know. And then behind closed doors, we're like, yes, let's go, And this is the first little bump in the road.
Dan, you're a Packers fan. What was the expectation going into this year for them? Because I didn't pay too much attention to them.
So it was weird. Last year, they kind of overperformed. 13-3 was definitely not where the team belonged. And they made it to the NFC Championship game, which was cool. And then once they started winning in the playoffs, I was like, all right, can we actually win the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, that's right.
And then they lost. They got trounced by the San Francisco 49ers and brought me back down to earth. And this year, I was expecting, more Aaron Rodgers to get familiarized with the new head coach, because last year it was a new system. And it looks like it's working right now. I mean, they've looked phenomenal the past 2 weeks, and hopefully they do against the Saints tonight. But they look better than I've expected them to look, and everything is really clicking right now, and it's really awesome to watch.
Well, the two biggest surprises this year so far, the Texans and the Eagles are 0-3, and they play each other next week. Someone said that on Twitter, I mentioned. So don't quote me on that. I'm just going off that, but I think they are. And I tweeted, someone's has got to go, and they go, not unless it's the Eagles or the Bengals game, because they're both 0-2, and that game ended in a tie.
Uh-huh.
That's what's gonna happen. I was about to say that right now. I'm like, they're gonna tie, guaranteed. And honestly, for fun, I hope they do. Honestly, I hope they do. Just leave it tied.
I will say it's pretty cool to see how much of an impact a wide receiver can have, with DeAndre Hopkins going to the Cardinals, because you take him off that Houston offense and they're not doing anything. And then you put him on the Arizona offense and they're looking great. So I didn't know that a wide receiver could have that much of an impact on a team.
Well, it's funny. As a Chiefs fan, when the Chiefs extended Patrick Mahomes, DeAndre Hopkins' last game as a Texan was against the Chiefs, and that's when they blew that 24-0 lead. And as soon as Mahomes got that extension, he responded to that on Twitter and goes, I can think of 24 reasons why he deserves it, responding to that 24-0 blown lead. So speaking of blown leads, the Falcons, man, Dan Quinn should not coach another. If he is still employed tomorrow morning, I mean, get a new general manager, because that guy just lost a team ever since they lost that Super Bowl.
Dude,
can't stop that Nick Foles magic.
Yeah,
that too.
I'll say this much, man. I know Danny's already legit. It's on ESPN Radio. I'm hoping to get a gig like that at some point, like a sports radio gig. The fact that Dan Quinn and Adam Gase are both still employed gave me so much hope. Just so much hope that there's a chance. Seriously.
Dan, you're with ESPN Ithaca. What show do you have there? What do you talk about on that show?
So we have a weekly show. It's called Between the Lines. It's every weekday at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's hosted by Nick Karski, who's been in the radio business for 8 years now. He graduated Ithaca College a few years before I did. And we just talk about whatever we feel like. Yankees, Buffalo Bills, New York Jets, Giants, all that New York stuff. And my primary job, which I can't do right now, is high school play-by-play. Of course, our section was one of the ones in New York that said, "Hey, we're not playing anything until next year." So I haven't called a game since March, and I'm getting a little antsy over here. I want to get behind the mic again.
Man, I'll tell you, I did the whole play-by-play thing in college. I went to the University of Kansas, so I did some play-by-play there, and I also did a little bit of high school play-by-play. People think it's so easy. You just simply describe whatever you see. It's funny. A lot of times, because I used to work for 610 radio in Kansas City, and of course, we all do podcasting. A lot of people think you just, show up to a radio station and just start talking, or you just start, you turn on your mic and you hit record and you just talk here and there. No, I mean, there's so much, especially high school, man. I don't know how it is for you guys, Dan, with all the information you have to look for, or if any of that is ever handed to you. I mean, 99% of the time, you gotta basically do a lot of research for these high school guys. It is incredibly hard because you got to prepare for everything, because you never know how a game will ever unfold.
Yeah. I got a story. Hold on.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I had to call a sectional playoff game, a girls basketball game in Binghamton in the AHL arena they have there. I did not hear back from the coach of the team that was out of my area. He just didn't answer my email about their roster, their stats, anything. So I go in there blind. I know one team well because I've called a couple of their games. Then this other team I know nothing about. I read an article, but I don't know who's on their team or what. So before the game, our pregame show is going. I'm talking about how this team's undefeated, yada yada, and I don't have the other team's roster yet. So in the 4-minute commercial break we have, I run around the AHL arena and find a program, miraculously find a program in the entrance that has the roster on it. And I called the game just based on that roster that I had, and it worked out. So there's a lot of stuff like that where sometimes if the coach isn't cooperative, you'll have some pretty hairy scenarios, but typically they like the coverage.
You know what's funny? I remember I was a student at a community college in Kansas, and there was our women's soccer team was really good, and there was a girl from Topeka High School. She was on a terrible team in high school, and then here she comes at the community college and is playing at a high level. And look, it's a community college. We're not following these teams closely like we do like a Big 12 school or a pro sports team. So sometimes we don't follow their games in their entireties. But anyway, I was going to do the story on this girl. Her name is Allie. And I remember interviewing her coach, and he was kind of hesitant answering a lot of the questions for some reason, because she was leading the team in scoring. And I remember we would win games 10-0, 15-0. You know what? I will say this, and this is honestly a really shitty thing. I remember there was 30 seconds left on the clock once, and the coach was yelling at one of the girls to keep going. It's dude, you're up 15-0. I mean, come on. But anyway, listen, I'm not one of those people that's oh, don't run up the score, but come on, it's 15-0, man. Anyway, I go up to this girl. I have to follow her because I can't find her to get an interview with her. I found out she was at the gym, so it kind of sounds stalkerish, but someone told me where she was, so I interviewed her. And then I realized her teammates who were also in the gym were pointing and laughing at my direction while I was doing the interview with her. And then 24 hours later, we get word that the athletics department does not want a story done on her because it turned out she was suspended for no showing a playoff game. Apparently, she chose a party over a playoff game. And again, this girl's incredibly good. She leads the entire junior college in scoring, in goals scored. And I remember doing play-by-play for one of the games. she hardly played, and she came out, and they always give them like those see-through jerseys or whatever to wear when they're on the bench. She just grabbed hers and threw it as hard as she could. And I'm like, yikes. Damn. It's like, why would you no-show a playoff? Like, this is athletics. Like, you're getting a free ride, but I don't know. Some people make a lot of stupid decisions. Okay, we talked about your radio show, your Throwing Elbows podcast. Is that a weekly podcast you guys do?
Yeah. Try to do it as often as we can every week. It's me and Heath Harshman, who used to write for Cage Side Press. He's not as active anymore. I think he writes an article a week now. And every month before the pay-per-view, we have Austin Arnett on. He had a couple of fights in the UFC. Northwest guy fought Shane Young, who actually fought on the last UFC card. And his debut was actually against Corey Sandhagen, which was very unfortunate for him. But we like to get his perspective every month on the big pay-per-views, and it's cool. We just, it's laid back. I'm not following MMA as closely as I used to these days, but I got a lot more other sports that pay the bills that I have to follow more closely. But we still have fun with it every week.
Eddie, tell us a little bit about your Keyboard Warriors MMA podcast. How can people listen to that?
All right, we are. You can actually watch all the. So I got lazy instead of making our URL on YouTube really easy to do. I just hooked it up to keyboardwarriorsmma.com. And we're on every podcast that you can find. Just type in Keyboard Warriors MMA, you'll find us. We're literally three guys. Like, if you could have you and two of your best buddies sitting back with beers, talking legitimate, just whatever you want about MMA, like, that's us. Like, we've been flagged before by YouTube, by Twitter, by Instagram for stuff that either me or my co-host Fred Kirby say. We've been put on what do you call it? Like an LGBTQ list for something one of our guests said one time. And
what do you guys do?
It was a former host. One of my he's a really good friend. His name's Aaron, and out of Michigan. Anyway, so I forgot I forget. I just don't like to repeat what he said. But he said something, and the F word that that you're not supposed to use, and we all kind of laughed, right? 2 days later, we all get tagged on a post on Twitter, all right, and it's his face with this guy's homophobic and all sorts of stuff, and it's put all over Twitter. No. The best part, they took his profile picture on Twitter. The biggest smile, the happiest looking guy ever. Like, he's like, this guy is a homophobe. I'm like, oh man. Wow. So
that is kind of a weird photo to use.
Right. So I'm just like, all right. So no, but it's we have our flagship shows, the Keyboard Warriors Live. It's Wednesday night. Very interactive shows. Me and Fred, Jesse has gotten a little too busy, so we're getting in guests and all that in and out. We just literally talk MMA, like you and your boys would talk about MMA, right? Like, Fred will say some outlandish stuff sometimes, but we give real points, but we give our own personal opinion on it. And we talk like just three guys sitting back with beers. And then on Monday nights, I do the Monday Night Hangout, which is exclusively literally what it sounds like. It's hanging out. I just happen to be the one on camera, right? But people can come in, join in the chat. I put up their comments. Like, the people that show up lead the show. I just drive the bus and kick it off and have some fun. So honestly, the whole podcast, I would love to say, like, we're trying to take over the world and stuff. We're not really trying. We probably should. But it's literally my hobby at this point. But I just take it. I do it a lot, so I take it real serious. But other than that, I also do the Cards Air Raid Report on the Sportscaster, and I host the Believe in Arizona Football podcast with former Arizona Wildcats corner Shaquille Richardson. So I'm all over the podcast thing, dude. You
do that through the Believe Network podcast.
Believe Podcast Network, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was contacted by one of those guys. I can't remember the guy's name. I think Cam.
Yeah.
Yes, he reached out to me and he hooked me up with an interview with former Chief Joe Valerio. Joe's a really cool guy. He was not he wasn't like a big name or anything. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he was a backup offensive lineman. But he holds the record for most touchdown receptions by an offensive lineman in NFL history. So he's got kind of a cool little record there in NFL history. It's funny because the three of us, I remember I got into MMA in 2016. My first, I'd watch a couple of fights here and there with Brock Lesnar and Anderson Silva. And I knew about Ronda Rousey and how she was beating everyone in 15 seconds. And then I remember Holly Holm beat her, and that was a huge deal. And her first title defense was against Miesha Tate. And then the same night, Conor McGregor was fighting Nate Diaz. And I said, you know what? I'm going to order this pay-per-view. First time I ever ordered a UFC pay-per-view. And I picked a pretty good one for sure. And I just got hooked right away, man. Like the way Miesha Tate pulled off the upset against Holly Holm and Nate Diaz pulled off another big upset and had that, hey, I'm not surprised, MFers, after the fight. I just got hooked after that, man. And that was honestly a really crazy year for MMA. Because if I'm not mistaken, there was an upset almost every other pay-per-view that year. Stipe Miocic beat Fabricio Werdum. Bisping beat Rockhold. So many crazy things happened that year. But yeah, I remember I said, I want to start writing about MMA. I think it'd be cool to do. And then I joined Cage Pages, and that's when I met you guys, which I see Eddie laughing right now. So
that's a funny name.
Yeah. It's funny. I'll get to that in a minute. But I remember I broke the story. I got an inside scoop from a couple of people about the UFC coming to Kansas City. And so I wrote about it on Cage Pages. As Eddie said, it's kind of a funny name, which it is. Yeah. And so a local radio station picked up on that story that I reported on. And they were all kind of like laughing about the name, like cagepages.com. Like, but anyway, long story short, a lot of writers got let go and there were very few writers and editors left. And it was basically hard for that website to really move on. So now it's defunct, but we're all now on the same website. Now, I'll be honest, I've not written in a long time, but Jay Anderson is the guy who founded Cage Side Press, which much better name. I will say it sounds a lot better. This is where I wanted to ask you about, Dan, because you're in the media, you do a lot of stuff, MMA, high school, NFL, whatever. Jay showed me this video of Bellator where a lot of the media members, and we're talking some of the big guys like John Morgan, a few other guys, they're getting their input on like an upcoming Bellator card. And you were on that video, I remember.
I was on that video, yeah.
Yeah, I know the UFC's not like, they pick and choose, they're top notch. I want to word this correctly. Basically, the guys that maybe suck up to them a little bit more. They'll never put, someone like, hopefully they do with Cage Side Press. Jay was hoping you would have been in more of their promo videos because sometimes they do that with upcoming fights. But man, it's just Bellator and the UFC, the way they're run, two very different presidents. Whereas, Scott Coker, I think he's a little bit more relatable. He's more open with the media, whereas Dana White, man, that guy, he gives a lot of weird answers and then gets really offended when the media says something against him. Mm-hmm. You guys kind of get that vibe with him?
Yeah, it's a tough. I would say it's a tough line to, what am I trying to say? Balance. It's when you're dealing with Dana White because you want it. That's the whole thing with this access journalism, they call it in MMA, where you have to kind of play nice if you want to be able to get those interviews. I haven't been a credentialed media member to a UFC event yet, but I've been to a couple Bellators and PFLs. But now that Cage Side Press is starting to get to UFC events, like with Gabriel Gonzalez, he's been there. Rodney James Edgar, he's been at a couple. Joe McDonough, I think, was at one. So we're starting to get UFC representation, and I think my time will come soon. But that access is tough because a lot of people want that hard-hitting journalism on MMA, but can't really do that if you want to get those post-fight interviews right after the guy gets knocked out. Like, you have to play nice with the UFC, and Bellator, they kind of they want the coverage. So that's how I end up in a video. I'm just at media day waiting to talk to some fighters, and their PR guy comes up to me, "Hey, you want to talk about this fight?" I'm like, "All right, sure, let's do it." I don't think that's going to happen with the UFC. I think that you're kind of towing the line with the UFC, where you want that access, and you don't want to rile up Uncle Dana.
Well, it's just even like the smallest thing. Like, I know he and Ariel Helwani of ESPN, but before he went to ESPN, like that whole Brock Lesnar thing, like, that was kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying it's like, why did Ariel report that? Well, it's news. And it's like, look, he got valid information. And, you know, in a world where we get a lot of fake news, it's not like it was anything wrong. And I get people have their opinions about Ariel, and that's fine. You know, I think he's honestly gotten a little worse since his ESPN move, but that's a topic for another time. But, you know, he reported a story and it was all factual. It's not like he reported anything out of the line. He didn't know that the UFC had this special promo to surprise us with Brock Lesnar. So I don't know. It's funny. I actually have a college classmate who works in the UFC now. He lives in Vegas. I've always wanted to reach out to. I mean, he and I have been in contact, but every time I go to Vegas, I reach out to him to see if he's available. But he's always busy because the UFC. I mean, they've always got this constant schedule where they're always doing cards. So I haven't been able to see him in a long time. But that's one of the things I've always wanted to ask him. You know, what is it like to kind of work with Dana White? So I suppose maybe you're not going to get the full answer on that, but. Yeah, Ed, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. So first of all, Gabe from Cape Side Press. Does anyone pimp harder than that dude? How many of the most gorgeous ladies in MMA is this guy gonna interview? Every time I see him on YouTube, he's talking to some gorgeous girl that just got, you know, he's about to beat someone's ass or just got done beating someone's ass. And every time I'm like hitting him up, I'm like, hey, get that number. You're a young single guy. What's up? Just messing with him, obviously, right? But shout out to him. I'm a big fan of that boy.
He's a man.
Who's that? That cowgirl that always has the hat?
KGB. I was so jealous of that interview.
Yeah, I remember, and he was just like, "Can I put the hat on?" She's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
He did that, and I hit him up on Twitter, on the Slack. I hit him up on everything I could find. I'm like, "Let's go!" I'm for him. Like, "Let's go, boy!" But
it's the best moment. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. But anyway, but as far as like the access to the UFC, you're 100% right. I mean, there's a reason why Ariel cried for 2.5 hours on his show back in the day.
Okay, I'll admit that was a little funny. That was a little overdone.
Oh, dude, I died laughing when I watched every second. Okay, I cannot stand the guy because he's dirty. My opinion, not these guys' opinion. My opinion, these guys, that dude is dirty, whatever. But that's for another time. But I died laughing every second of it because that's how important access is. That guy, that grown man, cried on the internet. On the internet that has no feelings and doesn't care about how you feel, or anything about you. He cried for 2.5 hours. He thought his career was over with the UFC because he did his job. That is how important access is in the UFC. And you know who didn't put up with any of that BS? Luke Thomas. When's the last time you seen that man cover? When's the last time you seen that man cover the UFC? You want hard-hitting like MMA journalism? That's my guy. Why? Because he could give less of a crap about what Dana White thinks. And as far as dealing with Dana, just like Danny said, it's a balance. You got to find it. You got to find the balance between reporting like facts, but not reporting so hard that it makes the UFC look bad. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's really strange. Like, as far as keyboard warriors go, we're never going to get invited to that. Just the name alone, he's going to be like, no, not those guys. No, not even. But I'm very happy to see my K-Type Press brothers keep going there.
I remember Luke Thomas was asking John Jones a question about like, you know, what his 30s were like. He's like, "I don't like you, Luke. I'm not answering your question." And he just went and like laughed about it on the air. He's like, "Look, if anyone has an issue with me, I'll discuss it with them. But if not, you know, hey, I'm going to have fun with it." Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I really do. Luke's a really intelligent guy, by the way. Yeah. Did you guys ever listen to his radio show on Sirius XM? Man, I am so bummed out that it came to an end. I mean, I'm happy for him because he's moving on to bigger things.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even just non-MMA topics, like that guy always knows what he's talking about. You don't always have to agree with him, but, I mean, he knows what the hell he's always talking about, which is always good. You don't hear that a lot, especially in media, especially on Sirius XM too. All right. I just got a weird pop-up on Zoom.
Me too.
It's been upgraded.
Okay, all right. I don't know what that whole thing means, but
we have unlimited time now.
Okay, I hope so, because we're just kind of, I know we're kind of getting off topic and all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I really like Luke. I'm bummed out his radio show's over. I know he does like his MMA, or not MMA, but just a YouTube Q&A with his followers on there. So you can always catch that. I did want to ask you guys about UFC 253 because this was a hyped up main event, and I know it didn't go as expected between Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa, but man, I don't think anyone's surprised by the result of that with Izzy. I mean, that dude is just a freak. A lot of people like to take shots at him and say he's skinny, And yeah, sure. I mean, so what? He looks like a welterweight, fights at middleweight, and is possibly going to go up to light heavyweight at some point. Like, this dude really is a unique athlete. And I don't know if the UFC's ever had someone like him before. And this guy's just getting started too, which is very exciting.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
He's incredible, right? Like the timing, the speed, all stuff to say about Conor, but the timing, the speed, but also like the smarts. Like, well, the first round, I don't know how many times I was counting how many times he kicked the crap out of Costa's leg, but Costa kept doing like, yeah, come on, hit it. And I'm like, you dummy. Yeah, okay, you're a hitter. Okay, all right, go ahead, dude. See what happens to you. By the second round, that leg was useless. Couldn't throw, had no power, was slower and all that. So I'm not surprised. And Izzy might be some kind of evil genius, but when you fight dumb against them the way Costa did, in my opinion, you're literally handing him the win. Like, there was no doubt after halfway through that first round in my mind that Izzy was going to finish him quick. And it was, when did it end? Second round?
Second round.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, so I watched Izzy back in the day. I was a big Glory kickboxing fan, and he really tore it up over there. And then he came over to the UFC, and I didn't really know what to expect. And he had a big flashy fight, his first UFC fight. It's like, all right, this guy's good. Well, let's see. Like all these big striking guys, you want to see them against a wrestler, and he passed those tests. I don't think I've ever seen him get taken down before. And I think Marvin Vettori might have got him in the third round of their fight, but. And now you look at the rankings at middleweight, and there's really no one that gives him any issues. No. And that's a scary thing to think about because this guy's a kickboxer who just decided, hey, I'm going to do MMA, and I'm going to do it really, really, really good. And it's like you go up against him, and what do? Because we had Robert Whittaker go hyper aggressive. That didn't work. We had Yoel Romero go hyper conservative. That didn't work. And then Paulo Costa was like somewhere in the middle where he didn't know what to do, where like he kind of laid back in the first round, then started trying to strike in the second round, and that didn't work. He got counted and knocked out. So there's really no way to solve Israel Adesanya right now. And that's really kind of terrifying because these dominant champions, they're typically all wrestlers, but now we're seeing it with a striker, and that's so cool.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, it kind of sucks that it took this long. And I'm not saying it took him forever, but I wish we saw Israel Adesanya a little bit earlier because I would have liked to see him fight a guy like Michael Bisping, because I think Michael Bisping could have maybe challenged him a little bit more before his retirement. I mean, who knows what would have happened if he and GSP possibly would have fought, referring to Adesanya. But yeah, you're right, man. It's like, I don't know who is going to challenge him. And it's like, you can either stay at middleweight and just continue dominating the way you are and just build yourself up and, maybe go for Demetrius Johnson's title defense record, or move up to 205 and fight some of those guys there. I know there's all that talk about John Jones. What do you guys think he does next? Because Dan, you do bring up an interesting point. It's like, what is there to do in middleweight?
Yeah, I mean, Thiago Santos called him out. If Santos can make 185 again, that'll be fun. Jared Cannonier has been winning. I know there's really, I don't know what you do with him. Like, you start feeding them guys. I don't think there's going to be much, interesting matchups at middleweight for him, but just keep building that resume. Like they're doing with Nurmagomedov.
It was hard to pick, right? Like, I mean, he said himself, like, hey, I DM Jared Cannonier. If he dominates Robert Whittaker, he's next. Let's say he doesn't dominate Robert Whittaker. Is he take that fight anyway? I don't know. I mean, look, just looking at the rankings, that means jack all for anything. Whittaker still 1, Costa still 2. He'll drop. Cannonier's 3, Jack Hermanson's 4, Yoel Romero's 5, Darren Till's 6. Like who? Any of those names you think could beat Izzy?
He beats all of them.
So
exactly.
I forgot about Darren Till. Like, how has he done lately? Because, Dan, I'm kind of like you. I haven't followed MMA. I mean, I used to follow it super closely, but not as much lately. But I know he hasn't been as dominant lately like he was at 170.
He just lost to Robert Whittaker, and before that, I believe he beat Kelvin Gastelum.
Okay. Yeah, I completely forgot about Darren Till. I think that'd be a fun matchup, but it's also got to make sense, too.
Yeah, does make sense right now. Whittaker got the best of him in their matchup, but then you saw how Izzy handled Whittaker just easily, which was also terrifying because Whittaker was phenomenal throughout his whole title reign and his way up the ladder at middleweight. He was so good, and Izzy made him look amateur, and it was wild to me.
Izzy to me reminds me of remember Cody Garbrandt, Dominic Cruz.
Yeah.
Where Dominic, Cody Garbrandt comes in and everyone's like, "There's a wrestler with an overhand right. He's not gonna do anything." And then he threw a master class on how to beat Dominic Cruz.
Incredible.
He played possum. He held everything back, every single fight until he fought the guy he had literally grown up training to fight. It seems like Izzy did that, but for everybody.
Yeah.
Like he trained to beat everybody on the way up, and he's like, "All right, I'm here. I got a game plan for this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy." So it's hard to say, like, who could be the one to, I want to say dethrone him, but at least give him a fight, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Yoel Romero fight to this day, I'm still wondering what happened. Like I know Izzy likes to wait to counter people, but that was just the weirdest fight to ever watch. It reminded me so much of Black Beast and what's the other fellow's name?
Ngannou.
Yeah. Black Beast, Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou, where they stared. It was a staring contest. It's like, come on, man. So I don't know, man.
I was at that fight, Lewis and Ngannou, and my dad, he doesn't follow MMA as closely as I do. He and I attended that together, and I told him, I go, this is going to end in 2 minutes. Like, this is going to be a great fight. And so we're watching, and a minute goes by, and I'm like, you know, it'll pick up. It'll pick up. And eventually it's just, they're not doing anything. They're just, I mean, people are booing. Yeah. The fans start chanting, fight. So, and then they start doing the wave. They pull out the phone and they turn on their flashlights. There was a woman,
that was the best.
There was a woman next. I remember that happened in Woodley Maya, and Joe Rogan just, you know, he talked about it because there was nothing else to talk about. This woman next to me goes, "What do the lights mean?" I go, "It's a boring fight," and she starts laughing. It's like, "Yeah, it is. So it's just, you see all that, and it's like, yeah, you are kind of surprised with how that went down. And then Brock Lesnar in the end just goes, you know, Miocic is a piece of shit, and Ngannou's it's like, damn, dude, just relax a little. You know, everyone has their bad days, but yeah, that was kind of shocking to see how that all unfolded.
It was weird, man. And then there were, like I said, Romero, Izzy being basically the same way. You just kind of like, okay, what is going on with this? So I think that's why now you get fans that are kind of, not all of them, but some of them are just like, all right, if you're overhyping a fight, I'm definitely not gonna pay for it. I'm not watching it. Might not pay for it. Whatever. So it's a rough one to call when it comes to those like overhyped main events and stuff. Like, and it's weird. That's when you miss. And I you know, I'm not a massive Conor fan, but I definitely give him credit for what he's done for the sport and transcending it and all the other stuff that he's done. The positive stuff he's done, all the negative stuff, well, it's on him. But like, you know, the positive stuff he did. My dad doesn't watch. We haven't watched boxing. He hasn't watched like boxing or like combat sports in years, right? He was a big Oscar fan. He was a big.
Hey,
Mike
sorry,
Tyson
I don't mean to cut you off, but you guys keep going. I need to step away for just one moment. You guys keep continue.
Cool. No, so like, you know, my dad was like big boxing fan, stuff like that, and he started watching boxing for years, right? The night of Maymac, dude, the night of McGregor Mayweather, I get a text about through the fourth round. My dad's like texting me going, "When's Mayweather gonna knock this cocky asshole's face off?" I'm like, "Relax, it's coming. Well, what's he doing?" I'm like, "He's carrying him." And why are you watching? He's like, I went over to your uncle's house. He had it, so I'm watching it. And I was over at my buddy's house watching it. I'm like, "You could have told me, dude. I'd have gone over with you." But regardless, he's just one of those guys. So like, we could use something like that right now. I don't think. Obviously, they're talking about McGregor and Pacquiao now, but we could use something like that in the UFC right now.
Yeah, there's very few guys who always deliver like McGregor did, and we don't even have that with Izzy because Izzy, sometimes guys are too scared to punch him, and I don't want to say scared because they're professional fighters, they're not scared, but they're petrified because they don't want to leave an opening for Izzy to take advantage of, and that leads to, you know, those staring contests like he had with Anderson Silva and Yoel Romero. Sometimes guys just don't want to mess with him, and that's going to happen. With Conor, people thought they could get there because he throws those spinning kicks, and he's like, "All right, I have a window there," and then Conor would take advantage of that and knock him out. So you always get an entertaining Conor fight, but I don't think Izzy's at that level yet. But you're kind of guaranteed something fun happening when Izzy fights.
Right. No, like I said, Izzy's he's just that dude that put. I mean, look, if they fight him, they'll put on a show. He'll put on a show against anybody. So it's just weird. That's why, I mean, honestly, like, it's fights like Izzy Romero, fights like Derek Lewis and Gane, which is why I'm a Diaz fan of both brothers. No matter what happens, Like when Diaz fought Anderson Silva, right? Like even as a Diaz fan, like I knew there's a decent chance Nick's gonna lose this fight, right? But he's at least gonna put a little bit of fear in Anderson during the fight, bro. When he laid down, he's doing this stuff, and I'm like, this is why I watch a Diaz fight.
Yep.
And then he put it on him a little bit. They were going back and forth, and he was not quitting. That's the kind of stuff that I like, that I enjoy in MMA. Is those guys that do not care, they don't give a fuck. They're just like, all right, I'm either gonna go out there and kill you, or I'm gonna get killed. That's why, as much of a clown as Mike Perry is, I will watch a Mike Perry fight.
Yeah.
Because Mike Perry is like, kill, like just like Post said, kill or be killed. It's like Diaz brothers, like kill or be killed. I'm going out there. So I would love to have someone like that come and fight Izzy and be able to actually like challenge him a little bit.
Vicente Luque is my dude for guaranteed excitement.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's the man. God, I've loved him. I think I was at his UFC debut way back in the day. And I think he lost in that fight. But ever since then, he's been on an absolute tear and just finishes everyone. So that's my guy for guaranteed go-to entertainment.
There you go.
You know what's funny is, and I don't know exactly what you guys were talking about. I just got back a minute ago, but you know what's one fighter that I've always enjoyed watching, and I was not always a UFC fan, but do you guys ever watch Henry Gracie's YouTube videos?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been so the way I got into that, you guys know who Tamba Ali is, former Kansas City Chief linebacker.
Yeah.
So I remember just searching for Tamba Ali on YouTube. And this was back when there weren't a lot of YouTube videos out there at the time in 2007. This was after Ali's rookie year. All of a sudden I see Tamba Ali trains with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm like, what is this? So I started watching it, and I was pretty hooked on that. And so I subscribed to Henry's YouTube channel, and that's how I found out about it. And that's how I knew about Brian Ortega. I knew about Brian Ortega before I even became a UFC fan. And then just seeing his evolution, I was so excited for him when he got to the featherweight title match. And it's a bummer because he hasn't fought in a really long time. And I know he had that funny interaction with Jay Park because of the whole Korean zombie thing, which they're going to fight pretty soon. I think that guy's really exciting to watch. I mean, his last fight wasn't very good. I mean, he just got destroyed by Max Holloway, but I mean, you can always count on him for a finish, a really exciting finish too. He when it comes to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu fighters, I mean, he's one fighter that's really exciting to watch. You know, he's going to do something pretty good and entertaining, and it's going to make you say, wow, by the end of the fight.
Yeah. His whole thing was, I'm just going to throw down with you until you get tired enough to try and take me down, and then I'll submit you, which was always a fun strategy when it worked. And then sometimes it didn't work, like the Max Holloway fight where his, face is hanging off, it looked like. But,
oh, gosh.
That's always a risky game to play. But when you have the skill set that he has on the ground, I guess you can lean on that quite a little bit.
Yeah, dude. It worked out about the Max Holloway fight. Yeah. Basically, I was like, even Max was like, I'm not taking you down. I got length on you. I got speed on you. I got everything on you. We're going to stand here till you quit. And you got to hand it to Ortega. He didn't want to quit.
No.
Didn't want to quit. And the space was almost falling off. And real quick note on Tamba Ali. I know that, look, I've competed jiu-jitsu at heavyweight and at super heavyweight, okay? I am wrong with no 6'3", 275 angry-ass linebacker that trained at all with Henry Gracie, all right? If that dude's in my bracket, I'll fight till I get to him and I'll be like, look, sir, let's just do takedowns for like a minute and I'll just tap. How about that? Give him a shot. Get out of here.
I actually ran into him at a Shields. Do you guys have a Shields? Do you guys have a Shields in your area?
No.
It's a lot like a Dick's Sporting Goods. I know in the Northeast there's Modell's, I think.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're pretty similar. But I remember just seeing him. And look, he's got a distinct look. It's not like you can mistake him for someone else. But for some reason, I still ask. I go, sir, are you Tamba Ali? And super, super nice guy. And yeah, I don't want to take too much of his time. Funny enough, I was thinking about him and Henner. And, a couple hours later, I run into him at a Shields of all places. So that was the same week as the Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl, which he ended up going to the next day. So that's pretty cool to see him.
Like the best week of your life, dude.
Yeah.
I saw look, I mean, and look, I saw your Facebook post where you were crying, and I was looking at my phone. and Here's the thing. My wife's sitting next to me, and she's just like, "Is he crying?" And I'm like, "His team just won the Super Bowl." She's like, "So?" And I'm like, "If and when the Cardinals win, I'm gonna be a mess." And she's like, "No, here's the thing. I didn't even I teared up a little bit when my son was born. Don't get it twisted. It's the happiest day of my life, and it always will be. well, if and when the Cardinals ever win the championship, it'll look like I was wearing mascara. I don't even care. I'll be drenched, snot rolling everywhere. Like, I can't believe I did it. Like
that's the Islanders for me. I've watched them suck for so long.
Oh man.
This year they were one of the last 3 teams remaining. So yeah, whenever they lift that Stanley Cup, I'll be an absolute mess. It won't be pretty.
Dude.
Oh, dude.
About that.
I was so pissed off with the Golden Knights, the way their season ended. They were so hot in the beginning of the bubble, and then I don't know. But yeah, the Chiefs thing, man. I mean, it's like we blew like a 28-point lead in a playoff game once. We once scored 2 touchdowns in a playoff game, and our opponents, the Steelers, scored 0, and we still lost that game. Like, any like creative way the Chiefs can lose a football game, like they have found a way to do it. There's no other, like, you can't recreate anything new. Like the Chiefs always find a unique way to lose. And it's just like, all right, I think it's time to win now. And with like 8 minutes left, we were down by 10 points, and we came back and won. So that was just crazy. I didn't even know how that happened, but yeah, it still feels crazy to me, and everyone in Kansas City.
And real quick, to everyone that gave Andy Reid any kind of shit when he was in Philly, we can't win the big one. Look, man, that's just bad luck. In Philly,
I gave him shit last year, man. I gave him shit last year.
Agreed. But like the people in Philly specifically, I don't know what it is about Philly fans. Allen Iverson could probably tell you better than anybody how Philly fans are, but it's just like y'all deserve that shit right there. I'm not winning Super Bowl with Andy Reid, because then he went somewhere else and won one. So good for Andy Reid. I'm an Andy Reid fan because of that. Because they gave him so much crap, earned a lot of it, not gonna lie. But he finally got the big one. You're just like, yes, thank you, Andy. Now let's give the Cardinals a chance here.
You know what's so funny about that is everyone in the media talked about, like, the biggest story was how happy they were for Andy Reid.
Hell yeah.
And on my last podcast, I had a guy, Dan Shanka, on. I don't know if you guys have been to OurLads.com. They've got these really nice in-depth depth charts for NFL teams. And Dan's a super nice guy. He used to be a scout for the Chiefs and for KU football. So he's got some local ties in the area. And he also was a scout for the Eagles when Andy Reid was there. So he used to work with Andy Reid. And I asked him about that, what was it like to see, your a former colleague of yours and Andy Reid to win a Super Bowl? And he was just ecstatic. It's like, there are a lot of guys. Okay. I'm trying to think of an example, like Jay Gruden. I mean, there are a lot of bad things people will say right now about Jay Gruden and everything that went down over in Washington. But Andy Reid, no one's able to say a bad thing about him. Yes, you can criticize, his skills, what he's done as a coach at times, but as a person, I mean, that guy's impossible to criticize. No one's ever said a bad thing about Andy Reid. And here's the thing about Andy Reid. It's like when the team loses and when something goes wrong, I mean, he does not throw anybody under the bus. He always says, I'm trying to think of the exact wording. He always says, I take responsibility for the loss. It's like, when he's talking to the media, he takes all the shit for himself. Behind closed doors, I'm sure he, says a few things to his colleagues here and there, but it never gets out in the open. Even in the past when we've had some immature, behavior situation, like with Travis Kelce and Marcus Peters, like he does not talk about that publicly. He just keeps it behind closed doors, and that's the kind of guy he is. So a lot of people were happy for him, and I can understand why. It's like just the kind of guy he is, and makes it easy to work with.
Yeah, that thing you said, that's what made it so shocking to me this season when Adam Gase said, hey, all we got to do is just execute the plays that we're calling, and we'll be fine. Oh, buddy. Hey, man, there's a little bit more than that to it. I don't know.
There's 11 other guys on the field with you, right? There's 11 other dudes on the other side with you, right? It's not just like, I don't know. Adam Gase being employed. All right, whatever, man.
The Jets, man, when they drafted Mark Sanchez, and I know he did not do well, but they still went to an AFC title game 2 years in a row. And it's like, you're just so close to a Super Bowl, and the Jets have never won a Super Bowl. So
they won Super Bowl 3 way back in the day.
Oh, okay. 3. My bad. I forgot about that. For some reason, I thought that was another team, but because
it was definitely another team. We don't know who the hell these Jets are.
For this Jets team to be where they are now, like they let go of Rex Ryan and, all this hope that they've had over the years. It's like, and plus, they're a big market team, so they're always going to have that big spotlight. It's like, Adam Gase, man, what are you doing? It's like you're not even fooling Jets fans. Like even fireman Ed knows that this team's not going to go very far. But I don't know.
Yeah, that hire was so confusing to me because he wasn't a good coach for the Dolphins. and he like alarmingly bad, and they hire him to a multi-year contract right away. I was like, what are you doing? Why? Like they played him twice a year when he was the Dolphins coach, and he was bad.
Eddie, I want to ask you, what were you thinking when the Cardinals hired? Yeah, because as a KU guy, you know, I mean, I follow Big 12 football. It's like the Big 12 is not that great, and he didn't do that well.
Well, okay, so I remember I heard the name like Cliff Kingsbury. I'm like, I've heard that name, Texas Tech, right? So I looked him up, and I was like, oh yeah, Texas Tech, cool. He recruited Patrick Mahomes, I think, or he worked with Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he worked with Patrick Mahomes and all that. So I was like, all right, that's cool. I didn't know too much about him. And then I looked at his records, and I'm like, oh, boy, this is the guy I want to bring to the NFL? What are we looking for here? So when they hired him, you know, I give the Cardinals a lot of slack in hopes that it works out. And maybe it's an Arizona thing. We're way too damn nice to our teams, honestly. Like, the Suns just come in. We're happy just being mediocre every year now. And, you know, Coyotes every single year, like, oh, those Coyotes. We'll go to those games anyway. Cardinals, same thing. But they hired him, so I immediately thought, all right, let's give this guy a chance. See what happens. Worst case, we fire him just like we did Steve Wilkes after a year. Just throw money down the toilet like we did with that dude. Fine. So they get him, and then he opens his big mouth and says, yeah, you know what? If I had the number one pick, I'd get Kyler Murray. And then I think a week or two later, he got the number one pick. I'm like, oh, dude, what are you doing? Because I wasn't convinced by Kyler Murray either. Like, a lot of people would say he's too short, he's too little. I'm like, dude, he had to say with a DE, with one defensive end hits him with just one clean shot, he's going to die. Mm-hmm. Especially with our line, right? Give him a lot of credit. He changed a lot of things, and he's learning as he goes, obviously, still to this day. Yeah. But this first season, he leaps and bounds, learned a lot about the NFL game, and I gotta say, I'm happy that it looks like I'm gonna be wrong about his hire because I was not happy about it at all at first. But I'm happy that he's learning and he's going, and it helps to have a guy like Kyler Murray, who I was also wrong about, and he'll move around and everything. But you know, like I said, in Arizona, man, with all of our teams, every university, every professional team. You're just waiting for that one thing to happen that's going to tank the entire season. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe that might just be the crappy attitude we have here. Because, like, everyone that lives here isn't from here. I'm not even from here. You know what I mean? But everyone
Where are you from?
Out of town. Mexico.
Oh, okay. You were born there?
Yes, sir.
When did you move to the U.S.?
Oh, 1993.
How old were you?
Dude, I was like 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
no, my accent's not there anymore.
You're a lot like me. Okay, yeah, my family and we moved to the United States when I was 2, so yeah I didn't know that about you. I thought you were born in the U.S., so that's pretty cool.
Oh, no, that would have made it a lot easier because they used to call him INS. I don't know what they call him now, but when I finally became a naturalized citizen, I remember telling the dude that interviewed me. First of all, they put you through this whole. I don't know if you had to go through this, but like they put me through this whole thing. They had to they literally gave you like a social studies test from like middle school, right? Like who was the president here? What was 1776 known about? When was slavery abolished? You got all this other stuff. And I'm sitting here going, like, answering, like, rapid fire. He's looking at me like, how do you know all this stuff? And I'm like, dude, I'm a product of your school system. What the hell are you talking about? Like, I literally learned this stuff last week. What are you talking to a child right now? What, you know what I mean? I started clowning this dude. He's like, yeah, you're American. Wow.
How old were you when you took the test?
I was, 15.
You had to take a test?
They gave, dude, so first, and I wasn't supposed to, because my parents were citizens for 10 years. I was supposed to automatically be one, right? But for some reason, INS did not communicate with itself at all. So it was all thrown around. They're like, oh, you got to go take a test. I'm like, what the hell? So I show up, I take the test, whatever. Oh, you passed, cool. And like a week later, we get a letter in the mail saying like, oh, because your parents were citizens for 10 plus years, now you're automatic. And I'm like, so what the hell was that? That's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, and then a week after that, we get the letter that says I passed their test, and I'm like, I should get 2 citizenships for this. Yeah. I'm like, I was waiting for my 2. First of all, I didn't even get a ceremony, which pissed me off. Not like in hindsight, it pissed me off. I didn't get to go do the swearing thing, nothing like that. They literally just sent me my social security card in the mail, and they were like, here you go, American. And I'm like, that is no fanfare whatsoever, dude. You're supposed to hype me up, man. What the hell? You know what I mean? Hype me up, America. What's up?
My parents took the test, and they studied for hours. Probably more than I ever did for school.
I taught my dad everything he needed to know, and I had to quiz him. I was like 8, and I'm just like, yeah, boom, Lincoln, boom, all this stuff, wow. Washington, all this stuff. And my dad went, he killed it. And he comes back, and I'm like, how'd you do? And he's like, oh, I'll pass. And I'm like, but you got them all right, right? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, you owe me like Peter Pepper pizza. You owe me something. Like, geez, you gotta give me something. So yeah, no, I hear you there.
Yeah, I just showed up and they gave it to me. I was like, what, 11 years old?
Yeah.
At the time. So
Dude, okay, did it take forever for you? Because it took forever for me. Forever. I was a resident for years before they finally gave me my citizenship.
So my parents became a citizen in the spring of 2001. I became a citizen 2 years after that in 2003. Gotcha. I will say about a couple of years after 9/11, I think they really changed up a lot of things. So I don't know. I heard it's a lot more difficult now. It's really difficult nowadays. So
way hard. They want to give these people like a bunch of grief for not doing it the right way. I'm like, have y'all seen what the right way is? they barely got money for a freaking Big Mac. You want them to do it the right way? Get out of here,
man.
I give those people a lot of credit for almost dying to get over here. Get out of here with that.
Oh man, that's
I'm
pretty
feeling
funny.
that white privilege right now. That's all.
So Dan, how'd you become a citizen?
I was born back in 1996.
Hey!
There you are.
There you go.
You know what I did want to ask you guys? I definitely want to touch on this topic. You guys, see, I'm not a big video gamer. I do play Final Fantasy, Grand Theft Auto games, and then I'll play a few other games here and there, like Days Gone, Call of Duty, Last of Us. Though, I mean, that's one of my favorite games. I was a huge fan of The Walking Dead when it first came out. I know they announced that they're only going to do one more season, so that whole zombie thing, I was really hooked on that. And I remember The Last of Us came out in 2013, and nobody had any expectation of that. But you guys have finished both 1 and 2, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just want to make sure. So for those who have not finished 1 or 2, if you don't care, spoilers coming up. But man, I remember the ending of the first one. Fantastic game, but that ending sucked. It just...
You thought so?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it ended. I don't know how else you would have ended that, but I was not a fan of it. And then they had the DLC where you found out how Ellie got bit and everything.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. And then, how many years was it? 7 years apart between 1 and 2?
2 damn.
I thought
the perfect amount of time, but 2 damn long.
I think I agree. 2 damn long, but very well worth the wait. To the point where I will say it did make up for the ending of the first one. But dude, the ending for that second game, it's just that poor girl. Like she lost her family. She lost Joel, who was like a father to her. Lost, I mean, her girlfriend and kid. Like, where the hell are they? Like, she took the entire farm with her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Last of Us 2 is one of those games that ruins other games for me because nothing will ever be as good.
No.
Because I thought Last of Us 1, perfect, 10 out of 10, all day, every day. And then with Last of Us 2, they made the gameplay so much better. And now I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now. And it's like, all right, this is a good game, but it's not Last of Us. That's how I'm going to feel with like every video game I play from now on. It's just going to be like, oh, this is like good, but it's not Last of Us.
That's what I did with the newest, what do they call Resident Evil? Like the newest, not the newest one, like the remix and all that, but the one, is it 7? I forgot which one it is, but like the newest one that's like the dopest game. I'm playing that, and it was an excellent game. And same with you, I'm like, Last of Us was better. It was much better. That first one was dope. And at the ending, I wasn't mad at the ending because it told me one thing that was very important to me that I was thinking about 3/4 of the way through the game. There's got to be a number 2. And that ending, I was like, there's going to be a number 2.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a number 2. So as soon as that happened, I was like, all right, cool. There's going to be a sequel. I can live with this one. I can live with that. And then number 2, you're just sitting there going like, what is going to happen next?
Yeah.
And then like, who's the bad guys? Ellie the bad guy? Is the other chick the bad guy? Like, are we all the bad guy? Are we all the good guy? Like, what's going on? And at the very end, I'm like the most epic fight scene, battle you can have. You're almost hoping you lose, and you're almost hoping you win. It's so weird. It was dope. It was honestly, like, it's one of my favorites. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know whether this should have make a third one. I'll be like, all right, we're good here. You know what I mean? Like, but a third one, it's like, where do you take that story?
You have to do a third, like that.
Do you?
What's that other girl's name? Abby.
Yeah.
Like there has to be like some sort of story, because I mean that girl lost everything too. Like in all fairness, you know what's weird is I had to actually Google this just to make sure I followed it correctly, the whole story. But Ellie does not know that Joel killed her father. Like
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
that whole thing is not. I mean, because I was expecting some sort of conversation between the two at some point.
Mhm.
Maybe that was kind of a naive thing to think, but that plot has to be filled in some way. It has to. I
I
think.
hope so.
I feel
If
I
they
feel like
do.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that sad ass ending that they left it on. Like that it's like, all right, everything's bleak. Here come the credits.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know. I don't know what you do with the third one. And I think it's narratively I think you just leave it at that. We saw a complete Ellie journey from when she was just this little girl not doing anything to just murdering everyone. That's a complete journey, and she kind of lost at the end, and that's the story. So she gave everything she had and still came up kind of empty-handed and with less fingers. So
Yeah.
like that, I think that's a very, very complete story, and I don't think we need to dig into Abby more because we had the flashbacks. We had I think we saw everything we needed to see with both characters, and I'm fine with it not going anywhere unless they want to introduce new characters and have like a new storyline in that same universe. I'm okay with that being the third one. That would be neat. I like anthologies. I'm all good with that.
There you go.
I think, I'm really curious. What was her girlfriend's name? I'm terrible with names, by the way.
I can't remember.
Dina,
Dina,
I think.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
She
it's
annoyed the
like,
hell out of me.
I mean,
She
look,
annoyed the living hell out of me. I could not stand Dina. I was like, yeah, that's your girl. What the hell, man? Like, support. I got it. After you had the baby, totally understand that. But before that, I'm like, come on, man.
see, I think you can assume she went back to Jackson and said, hey,
Yeah.
I need help bringing my shit over here. I want to come back. But it's like, at the same time, it's like you kind of want to see where she is now with the baby and all, and all the cattle, everything, like everything's gone. The only thing left for her was in that one room, which she decided to take none of that. She just left.
Right.
So yeah, I see. Here's the thing. Again, like I said, I don't play a lot of video games. I mean, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, and 9. Those three are some of my favorite games. I think the story's compelling, as are the characters. And I'd say the same thing about Last of Us. Like, The Last of Us has a lot of compelling characters. Like, you care about these characters in a way. So I think that's why I'm a big fan of that. I will say this. I actually just grabbed this. I don't know. Have you guys ever read this comic book, American
No.
Dreams? This is actually really good. It actually talks about Ellie when she got to that area where you first meet Ellie when you're Joel, when you're playing as Joel. It's actually pretty cool. It's like a prequel to everything else, essentially. So if you want like more Last of Us, I think that's a pretty cool read. Neil Druckmann did a great job with that. But I will say, have you guys ever played Days Gone?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude, I mean, if you like Last of Us, you got to play Days Gone. And I will say this, like, I think there's a chance maybe you will like it better than Last of Us because
I'm just going to put it out there. There's no chance.
Fair enough.
Nothing's ever going to beat that.
I will say this, like, the storyline's really intriguing. It does end in a cliffhanger, not as crazy as Last of Us 1, but there was a cliffhanger that teases a second game. But I'll just leave it at that, man. If you've ever played Grand Theft Auto, you know how there's like an open world. You can go wherever you want at any time.
For sure.
It's a lot like that. So I think you'll enjoy it. You definitely got to play Days Gone if you haven't done so.
No, Days Gone is dope, and it's a faster gameplay. It's faster gameplay with the zombies. Those guys.
It is.
These are like what was that one? How was that movie? World War Z. These are World War Z zombies.
Oh
They're sprinting. They're sprinting after you, and then you get to running into giant groups called hordes, and you're just like, what the hell?
I was horrible with those. I can't.
I was terrible for a while.
Yeah, great stuff. Real quickly, I know I mentioned you guys' podcast and everything. Is there anything you guys want to plug before we sign off?
Right,
yes,
man.
no, maybe.
I got nothing. I don't know. I'm on the radio.
Okay.
There you go. No, man, keep it warriorsmma.com. Come hang out with us. We're interactive as hell. We literally do not take like ourselves so serious and we're big time anybody. We've had random people. I've had random people hit me up on DM like, hey man, can it be a guest on? I'd be like, if you're not crazy, why not? Shit. We're bringing them on, but I'm not gonna lie, we've missed a couple times. All right, they made for hilarious sound bites and stuff like that. But other than that, man, it's pretty. It's very laid back. We just talk MMA, and then I have obviously Monday night. On Monday nights, I do the Keyboard Warriors Monday Night Hangout, and then on Tuesday nights, I'm doing this old podcast that I did years ago, about 8-9 years ago, I started a podcast called the Undisclosed Occasion Invasion Podcast. The dumbest name ever, but the ULI. We talked about everything, but a lot of it came down to current events, some sports, and then politics when it came time for elections. So this whole election is getting kind of crazy right now with like everything. And I was trying to avoid as much as I could, but because it keeps coming to me, I'm like, fine. I'm going to bring it back. We're going to talk about it. So on Tuesday, I believe Tuesday nights I'm going to be doing, I already did one last week. YouTube yanked it off of YouTube for whatever reason. On Tuesday night, I'm bringing it back. It's a very hangout style show where you show up and I just talk with people that are watching about politics, current events, whatever they got. Last week we got a lot into gun control. I'm not surprised. I live in Arizona, so gun control is a massive issue here. But mostly because it's like stay away from my guns. But other than that, K-Side Press, we do the work. All right. Yeah. You ever see the live tweeting where it's like rapid fire live tweets? That's me. I'm doing that.
Don't know how you do it.
Oh, dude, it's a lot of locking my door so my kids don't come in and like watching with a plate of wings next to me. No, but we do all. Obviously Danny works there. I work there. Gabe is one of my favorite people. Because this kid, I don't know how old he is, but he looks like he's 12. Okay.
Do you know how old he is, Dan?
I think I think he might be a year or two older than me, which is about like 26 or so.
Right, but he looks like he's 12, right? So it's just like it's almost cute to watch him go talk to fighters. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, okay.
He's the man.
Oh, you know who else is with? Who's the guy from Cage Side Press? Who was trying to talk to Tony Ferguson, and Tony just goes, "Oh, F you, I don't need your advice."
That was Rodney James
yeah,
Edgar.
Rodney.
Yeah, dude, I mean, he didn't seem like he was all bent out of shape about it, but I felt bad about him. It's like he didn't say anything bad. Tony Ferguson just misunderstood him.
He put Colby on the spot last week. He was like, "Hey, man, you racist?"
I missed that. What did he say?
Like Colby did his whole narratives and all that stuff. He's like are you aware of what you're saying with all this Black Lives Matter stuff? And Colby just did his thing. So Rodney was the guy that pressed him at the post-press conference.
Did you recognize his voice? Because I did. As soon as I heard the voice, I'm like, that's fucking Rodney. Oh my God, he has a real question.
He's going for it.
I was like, Rodney's getting kicked the hell out. Dana's gonna come out and get him out of here. Get him out of here. He has a real question. Get him out.
I loved it.
Afterwards, I'm just like, man, Rodney ain't never getting invited back.
Oh God,
man's fearless. I love it,
dude. Yeah, you gotta give
respect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna sign things out. Hey, this was a lot of fun. We definitely got to do this again.
Hell
Dan,
yeah.
Eddie, thank you guys so much. Stay safe. We'll keep in touch, and I'll bring you guys back on again sometime.
Thank you. Yeah.
Later.
All right. Take care, guys.